Hi, this little video is just a little advice from me about succeeding in my classes, but also about succeeding in most of your classes. Being a student is hard. Many of you have jobs and family requirements, especially if you're interested in theater. You want to be in rehearsal. It's hard. Time management is extremely difficult. And I want you to know that I get it. I understand it. I have difficulty speaking as well as difficulty with time management myself. So some advice that I want to give all my students in all my classes. This is advice for all the classes I teach. And some of it will be specific to acting classes as opposed to other classes like Intro to Theater. But here we go. First of all, always ask questions. I am extremely human. All your teachers are very human, especially for things like, if there's something in the Moodle shell that looks weird, ask us if you had any idea of how many steps we have to go through to add every single thing in the Moodle. It is very easy to make mistakes along the way. It is very easy to screw things up horribly or make little mistakes. So if there's anything that looks weird, especially in Moodle, do not hesitate to ask for clarification. I promise you no teacher will ever hold anything against you for asking a question. But even if it's not for something that you think, oh, is this a screw up? Things that you just don't understand, always ask questions. Send your teachers emails. Raise your hand in class. Please do not hesitate to ask questions, no matter what. I promise you there's at least one other person in the room who had the same question. Or if you email me and I realize, oh, that's something I need to address in class, I value your questions. It's your way of contributing to the class. Please ask questions. Now, another little bit about the time commitment and the workload in classes. All the classes most of the classes that you take at this college are university transfer. So they need to be the same workload as that you would be if you were at a four-year college or university. It is our responsibility to prepare you for transfer. Now, yes, I've heard stories of other classes where there's much less of a time commitment. There are far fewer assignments. In an online class, you just do this and you take 2 multiple choice tests and that's it. I feel that's a major disservice to your education. It's a waste of your money, and it's not preparing you for transfer, and it's not preparing you for the real world. There's a reason that being a full-time taking 12 hours is considered being a full-time student. For the sake of argument, let's say that you're taking that would be 16. You're taking 3 12-credit classes. See, maybe I should take more math classes. If you're taking a 4-credit class, then that means that if you're full-time, you're taking 3 4-credit classes. Full-time means full-time as in full-time job, means 40 hours a week. So you're basically being asked to dedicate a certain number of hours to each class. There's the old formula that for every hour you spend in class, you need to spend 2 or 3 or whatever hours outside of class. Depending on what it is, if you're in grad school, it's a lot more, and it depends on the class. And it depends on if the class is a lecture class or a lab class. Introduction to Theater is a 4-credit lecture class. That means that you should probably be putting in a total of about 10 hours to that class every week. Especially if it's online, where, if it were face-to-face, 4 of those hours you would be sitting in class. Well, then you would be expected to spend at least 6 hours outside of class just for that one class. Lecture classes means there's far more prep outside of class than there is time spent in class. Lab classes mean you come to class and you do all the work there. So, Intro to Theater is a 4-credit lecture university transfer class. I've designed the class assuming that, and I've literally timed things out and added up the time I think it's going to take you to do things, and I have always erred to the taking longer, assuming it's going to take you half an hour to read this chapter. Well, I would allot for an hour. So the time commitment in Introduction to Theater, I have calculated, and should be around 10 hours a week. In the acting classes, it's a little bit different because part of the credit in acting classes is a lab credit. So that is in class doing work. That's why I give you time to rehearse with your scene partners and doing monologues with your fellow students where I'm working with other people. So the time commitment for an acting class, you're in class for about 5 hours. You should probably be spending another 5 hours outside of class over the course of the term on an average. If there's a week where you have memorization and written work due, you're probably going to spend more time outside of class preparing for that. If there's a whole week where we're just working in class, there might be less prep time. But when you're planning out when you're planning your time management strategies and you're figuring out how many classes to take and what classes to take, always, if it's a 4-credit class, always assume that you're going to need at least 10 hours a week for that class. If that's not the case in your personal life, but because of your jobs, your families, your other commitment, then you might want to consider tweaking your schedule so that you really have time to succeed in all your classes. A couple of little pet peeves possibly, but things that just are really important to keep in mind about submitting written work. Please use fonts with no feet. I want to show you really quickly. So this is Times font. See, because it has feet. It has the little, see the T, there's a dash at the bottom and the little hooky things. Look at, just take a glance at that. Look how much easier this is to read than this. When I'm reading, how many papers that I have to grade when an assignment is due and I want to read them quickly and give you your grades as quick as possible, that makes a difference. There's a reason that the default font for most programs these days is something like this, like Calibri, like Arial, what have you. Please don't use fonts with feet. It's just, in this digital age, we really need to phase that out. Another thing about submitting documents is please do not send me any links to anything. Google Docs, the beautiful thing about Google Docs is you can just send a link and you don't have to download it. You don't have to attach it. Well, I promise you, far, far more than half the time I get a link, mostly a Google link, but any other link to a document, I can't open it because the student who submitted it didn't make the settings so that I could open it. I promise you, this is a huge hassle. Not just for me, but for you too. That means I have to get back in touch with you. I have to try to find you before the due date is up to get you to resubmit it. Don't do it unless there's some miraculous new thing that happens where where sending links becomes magically better, which it's not going to. Attach or paste your written assignments within the text box. Pasting is really goofy in Moodle because the formatting gets all screwed up. If it's just a simple, paragraph write-up, pasting it's probably fine, and it's actually easier for me to open. If you do attach, please attach as a Word, capital W, or as a PDF. If you attach other things, I can't do two things at once. I'm probably not going to be able to open it. Moodle is getting better about converting all attachments to PDFs, but so unless you know that it's definitely going to happen, don't submit don't submit an RTF or some other thing like that. You can actually type within the text box of Moodle, but then it's really hard to save that. And let me add, always save your work. I might lose it. Something that Moodle might go down and I might not be able to grade it. Always back up your work and always save it. There is no reason not to. I hate to say it, but I more than anybody resent the fact that you need a degree in computer programming to be a citizen. I hate computers. They are tedious. They will always mess up just when you need them most, but it's the world we live in. It's part of being a functioning adult. Unfortunately, and I resent the fact out of it, you need to know how to use computers. And saving your work needs to be just the most simplest thing that you know how to do. On the topic of, you submit a link, I can't open it, check your email. You should be checking your email at least twice a day. I know it's no longer cool to check email. With everything else, there's There's textings, there's Slack, there's all these other, and you know, by the time I download this video, there'll be some other new program that somebody is trying to sell us and trying to get our data off of us. You know, they're not just trying to make our life easier, they're trying to exploit us to make more money. That's the way it is. There's nothing wrong with email. But even if you think, oh, email is just so old-fashioned, you have to check it. If the only way that the college has to communicate to you is through email, the only way that they are legally obligated to getting information to you is through email. So you must check it. There's a reason that you're given a school email address. It's so they know that you have an email address that has a certain capacity for sending and receiving documents. So check your email. You will be very glad you did. If I cancel class for whatever reason, I'm going to send you notification through email. I cannot stress this often enough. Check your email. Another thing I want to add, and this is just a simple, this is definitely the way I feel. I have structured my classes. I've been teaching for a long time, and I've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that I minimize the giving up effect. It is so frustrating for students to just disappear and give up. No matter what happens in your life, I promise you that I can work with you to succeed in a class without having to drop it, without having to make an F, without having to get a no credit or something like that and waste your money. It's really important to me that you succeed in my classes. I can work with you. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, something weird happens in your life and you contact me, I'm going to go, oh, that's okay, let me just give you an A. I can come up with alternative assignments. I can come up with easier ways to submit the work that you need to get done, ways that suit you more, ways that feed upon your strengths. So please don't give up. I accept late work. Quite honestly, I feel that my late work deduction is more than fair. If you submit every single assignment late, you can still pass the class as long as it's a decent assignment. So much of classes are just about following directions. I know, especially in intro, you might feel a little bit overwhelmed when you look at all the stuff you have to do. It's not hard stuff, and the same thing for acting classes. The things you have to do are not hard. It's just a matter of doing it. Showing up, turning assignments in. On time, great. Even if it's late, great. Please don't give up, and please persist. It's one of the outcomes for the theater program is to get you to embrace failure as an opportunity for growth, and to solve problems, and to persist. And I've designed classes to be that way, so please don't give up. And please, if there's anything going on in your life, contact me, and let's work together to help you get through class. Another thing I want to say that's not directly related to this class is please get a degree while you're at Lane. Almost every single student I know that I've had the privilege of getting to know, when they leave Lane, and I talk to them later, and those who did not get an Associate's of Science, an AAOT, or an Associate's of General Studies, they've all regretted it. Those who've transferred to other colleges, they always say, I totally wish I got my degree while I was there. Because especially if you get your AAOT, then when you transfer, and you probably know that, hopefully you know this from talking to advisors, when you get your Associates of Arts Oregon transfer, and then you transfer to another school in the state of Oregon to get your bachelor's degree, and even some of the states that are bordering Oregon, your general education courses are done. When you transfer there, all you have to do is take your major courses. So if you're, for example, I know most of you probably are not going to major in theater, but just for example, if you do major in theater, when you go to U of O, for example, then when you go there, you only have to take theater classes. Now, there may be some colleges that have 1 or 2 classes exceptions. They might require a more advanced foreign language level of foreign language or something like that. But that's just one class. If you transfer before you get your Associates of Arts Oregon's transfer, then they're going to evaluate your transcript on a course-by-course matching basis, and I promise you, you are going to spend much more time and much more money getting your bachelor's than you would if you had just stayed at LCC to get your degree. Now, there are students who transfer, but then like during the summers or whatever, they come back to finish their associates and then retransfer that back. That can be done. It's complicated. it's difficult. Sometimes that is the best option. I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm just saying it's best while you're at Lane, please get your degree. The last thing I want to add here is that mental health should be taken seriously. I mean, I myself have struggled with depression. I know what it's like. If you feel like you're struggling with your mental health, if you want to reach out to me, I can try to connect you with someone who can help you. There are counseling services on campus. You have paid for them already. Please use them. The main reason that students don't succeed in my classes, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and observing this, the main reason is one of two things. Housing insecurity. They've had to move 2 times in the term. They've had to get an extra job because their landlord went up on their rent or what have you. There is that. That's a big thing. But I think probably more so is mental health. People struggling with mental health issues. There is nothing wrong with saying you need help. There's nothing wrong in admitting that you are having some mental health problems. Let me know. I can try to help. I am not a counselor. I probably can't, do anything directly to address the problem, but I can try to help, and I can try to work with you so that you can succeed in this class, because nothing's going to make your mental health get even worse as failing a class. It's just a few things I wanted to throw out there to everybody. Take them for what they're worth. I mean them, especially the stuff about submitting assignments. No feet font. But the other things, I sincerely mean these too. So if you ever have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I think some of my students might feel a little intimidated by me because I come off as very, businesslike and let's do this and let's work hard. And I do believe that. But my job is to make sure students succeed. And I am seriously, personally committed to doing that. So don't hesitate to reach out to me for anything you need. Bye.